Hi, I watched Rocket Man, the movie about Elton John, and I'm a major Elton John fan. I've loved him since I was 11. I went to his concert last year. I'm decked out in Elton John stuff, so um, this is one of my favorite movies, and I was very, very glad that I was able to watch this movie for this project because, I just love it. I already knew most of his life story and the struggles he went through, so seeing it played in such a great way um, is why I love this movie, because it's about my favorite human being ever. Um, yeah. So, Elton John dealt with a lot of things in his life. Specifically, he dealt with depression, I believe, and he had suicidal ideations that went along with that. He coped with his depression through drinking and drugs and even hypersexual behavior. He went through a lot in his childhood. He felt like he didn't get enough love from his parents, specifically his dad. And then becoming famous was difficult for him in general, as it would be for anyone adjusting to that type of life. So he did turn to drugs to help him cope with issues like that. He also tried committing suicide in the film by taking a bunch of drugs and then jumping in the pool. And specifically, it was during a party. He says, like, for my next trick, I'm going to kill myself in the film. So that was a big turning point in that movie for him, to see that he had a problem. So for therapy and medications, for Elton specifically in the film, he went to a treatment center, which helped him safely stop drinking and doing drugs. And also, the entire movie is narrated by him in what looks like a self-help group. And it did work because he really finally realized that he had a problem, and that's what brought him in to get help. So I'm in the film, I don't know how accurate this is in real life, but in the film, he was about to go on stage at a concert, and it was after he had a heart attack because of drugs, and he was recuperating his health and just, going through so much, and then he's just sitting there and he realizes, like, I need help. He gets up, goes in a taxi in this huge outfit, and goes to this treatment center, and he gets help, and he stops drinking, and he stops doing drugs, and it did work for him. And I know, just because he's a real person, I know that since he went to that treatment center, he has been abstinent from drugs and alcohol ever since, which is awesome. So, talking more about each of his mental health issues, regarding his depression, the symptoms that he specifically had in the movie, that I based both of these off of DSM-5 criteria. He had a depressed mood most of the day, nearly every day, anhedonia, feelings of worthlessness or excessive and inappropriate guilt nearly every day, recurrent thoughts of death and suicidal ideation, with or without a plan. For medications, specifically, he could have used SSRIs, SNRIs, tricyclic antidepressants, and MAOIs. And then the milieu that's effective for depression, you want to maintain safety as priority. Specifically, when they have suicidal ideations, you want to maintain safety that is priority. Simple and concrete terms, stress reality for the patient, use limit setting, and then encourage participation in groups and things like that, and then discuss feelings of hopelessness and helplessness with the patient, because verbalizing can really help a lot, before getting other help. For substance abuse, what he showed in the movie was taking larger amounts than you're meant to of the drug, spending a lot of time getting, using, or recovering from the substances. In the film, he would wake up and start drinking. So he was using much more than what's normal. Cravings and urges, not managing what you need to do because of the substance use, so like his shows and performing and stuff like that. Continuing to use even when it causes problems in relationships, such as his relationship with his musical partner Bernie, when he was married for a brief time, it interfered with his marriage, with his manager, his family, so it did cause a lot of problems. Using again and again, even when it puts you in danger, that was big in this movie because he did like put himself in situations in which he could have gotten himself hurt. He did get hurt. He almost died when he jumped off the diving board into the pool. He had a heart attack right before he got help at the end of the movie. He's out there doing activities that could put him in danger, such as, his hypersexual behavior. Alone could give him, that presents an opportunity for things like STDs, even worse, like HIV. Same with the drugs, using drugs and needles, and a lot of things could go into him not being safe with the drugs and it causing danger. For the medications for aversion therapy, specifically naltrexone, acamprosate, and then Antabuse. And then if he was withdrawing, you want to use Ativan, which is a short-acting benzo. Milieu, for substance abuse, you want to use confrontation. You don't want to, beat around the bush. You want to say, hey, you got a problem. And that goes along with tough love, Physical and nutritional needs need to be met. Specifically with alcoholics, they have vitamin B deficiencies, and they need that to be met. And a lot of them have electrolyte imbalances, so it can cause a lot of problems. And then getting involved in self-help groups is really important, and he did do that in the film. So what did I learn from the movie that I can use in future practice? I learned what not to do with a patient who is dealing with depression and suicidal ideations and substance abuse, because many people contributed to his substance abuse, and that's the opposite of what you want to do, because no one was really there for him and really told him, hey, you got a problem, we need to get you help. And the best person in his life in the film was specifically Bernie, his musical partner, and even then he didn't go out of his way to try to get him, medical help. He just was saying stuff like, let's go away, like let's take a break from everything, which is great, but no one really acknowledged his problem. And maybe that's partly because he didn't tell a lot of people and he kept it very hidden, but a lot of people close to him did know, and they didn't help as much as they should have. And then that goes along with nobody supported him enough to get him help. He had to figure out himself that he needed help. And if he would have had help beforehand, before all of that stuff happened, before having a heart attack, before committing suicide or trying to commit suicide, he probably would have been a lot healthier and a lot better. And it's important just to be there for these people if they need it. What would be your recommendations moving forward? For him specifically, continue the therapy, because that seemed to really work in the film and in real life, I know. That includes AA groups, and counseling for his, depression and substance abuse, whatever, all of that stuff, counseling, and keeping in touch with the therapist would be very important, specifically for his stress management, because he had a lot of stress, he had a lot of anger issues. He had a lot of anger towards people in his life, so I believe that stress management counseling would be very helpful moving on. Practice mindfulness, maybe even, instead of drugs and alcohol, and then taking a break from performing, specifically for Elton, because it did cause a lot of stress for him, and he needs to now think of performing as a fun time that he used to love, and get that love back for it, instead of just as a job, I can't deal with it anymore, take drugs before the show. So taking a break from performing would be very important. Nursing diagnosis for him, I would say, would be ineffective individual coping related to previous ineffective and inadequate coping skills with substitution of a drug or drugs, as evidenced by physical harm and injury and hospitalization. Some nursing interventions for that would be determining current coping mechanisms, encourage verbalization of feelings, explore alternative coping strategies, use peer support to deal with coping with issues like drug hunger and binges. You need help with other people who are going through the same thing to help you support you, get through tough times like that. And then you want to discuss plans for living without the drugs. And he went through a lot of his professional career taking drugs before shows and drinking, and specifically for Elton in this movie, you want to make sure that he understands that, he's not going to have those things when he's performing. And if he still wants to do that, he needs to figure out a plan for living without drugs to help him be successful. All right, thank you.